Hello, welcome to the CO visit. Colin here, and I always got my trusty coffee. Well, at the time that this video is premiering, if you're already here and you're one of the members, welcome. Welcome and thank you. And if that's, in this case, Jeff, welcome, and thank you for that again. Okay, so a special shout out for that. And I and we, my whole family, do appreciate your support of the CO visit. You guys make this possible, being an audience. So yeah, so just to give you guys a little peek into uh, how the healthcare system is here, which is not anything pretty. You know, it really isn't. And in my case, I can't complain. I mean, I was able to go. I was able to get done what I needed to get done, but um, it takes such an amazing amount of patience to deal with this health system here in public workers. And I think most people know how that is. You know, the public workers anywhere in the world, I think, are just a special breed of people who just, they don't care and they don't have to. They're getting paid by the government, and if you don't like it, tough, right? So I went in this morning, took time off of work today, went in this morning for some checkups because literally I haven't had any medical checkups. I've gone into emergency a few times for my anxiety and other things, but as far as actual appointment and lab tests, the last time I was in a hospital was 2005 when I had dengue fever, the dengue virus. So it's been 20 years. I've never had a blood test, nothing. And so, now that I'm in my mid 40s, needs to get done. And I'm checking a few things out and getting up to date with how my health is right now because of some of the problems that I've been having. And so, typical day when you go into a Honduran public hospital like today, especially right after a holiday, right after Mother's Day. So I went in. You have to be there half an hour before. So my appointment was at 7 o'clock. I had to go in at 6:30 in the morning, and then nurses, the nurses get you set up in a certain area, and there's like 15, 20 people that are all there at the same time for that same time. It's not individual. And they start getting your medical expedients out, and they start calling everybody, and then you go in one by one. They take your blood pressure, they weigh you, they get your height and all of that. And then you go back outside and you sit for another 2 or 3 hours. Doctor shows up at around 10:30. So it was like, 2 hours and a half later on. Okay, doctor shows up, went in, started talking to the doctor, said what I had to say. And then she gave me, it was a woman, she gave me the order for some blood tests and stuff. But I went to the laboratory after that. She said, once you get your test, it's probably going to be in the afternoon if they do it today. If you're lucky, they'll give it to you that same day, but in the afternoon. So you have to come back like 3, 4 hours later. But this particular day, they just told me, no, we're not, we don't have a system. The computer system's down. You have to come back tomorrow at between 6 and 8 in the morning. So now I got to go back in tomorrow before work at 6 in the morning so that they can just draw the blood, and then hopefully it won't interfere with my work day. I can go give classes, and then once I get out, I can swing by the hospital again, pick up the results, and then I'd have to make another appointment for Friday. I couldn't do that either today because the appointment system was down, wasn't working. And so that's how all that works. I mean, you're going to go to the public hospital, you better have about 3 or 4 days available that you can go do all of this because it's so inefficient. It's so crazy. And sadly, for a lot of the people that were there were no medicines. So they couldn't get any medicines. There were people there waiting for insulin. They got sent home. There were people waiting for thyroid medicine. They got sent home. There was none. They had to keep waiting. There were people waiting for dialysis. They got sent home. You know, it's the socialistic government. Fucking sucks. So anyway, what I want to talk about today, You probably saw on the thumbnail, and I just laughed at when I went in to look at jw.org and the latest uh, broadcasting for the month of May so far. And this guy, where I don't know who pulled this, where they pulled this guy out of. So the Gagis Glockington, and wow, I mean, talk about this guy's parents must have been Hunger's Game fans, because that name came right out of a Hunger Games book. Sounds like a capital name, a capital game maker, right? Gagis Glockington. But yeah, so they were talking all about a bunch of crazy stuff. What I focused on, because yeah, the broadcasting for the month of May wasn't anything that really captured my interest at all. But there was an article you can look at on jw.org about health, your health, and worry, how to handle worry. And then there's some links to other ones. So I started looking at mental health, and it's interesting how actually right now, from what I was reading, and I was pretty surprised to actually see this in print, is that they've changed their tune up a little bit. Not that this is 100%, but they had a list about what mental health was, and it talked about how it's not a weakness of the person. It's not their fault. And I was like, wow. To actually see Watchtower put that in print, that was news to me. So, congratulations, guys. You finally fucking got it. After all of these years, after we've been saying it and what a lot of us went through. Because when I was growing up, mental health was absolutely your fault. And that's what the organization pushed for years and years and years in their literature and in the Shepherd the Flock of God manual. Which, because of suicide and other things, you could have a judicial committee. So they would look at that as that you weren't doing enough. You weren't keeping busy. You need to be praying more. You're giving room for the devil and all this stuff. You're spiritually weak. That's what we got when we were growing up. And then you wonder why. Basically what happened is, with the onset of the pandemic, they weren't able to hide it anymore. And they weren't able to blame their people for having mental health issues. So after that all happened, and the lockdown and all that stuff, and this world that we live in today that's gone to hell in a handbasket, and people are just losing their minds, the Watchtower organization can't deny that anymore. They can't turn a blind eye to it or act like it's just something where you gotta suck it up. Suck it up. Get out in service more. Pray more. Go to the meetings. Study. But this is from the same organization that spent decades, right up through the 90s and 2000s, pummeling psychiatrists and psychologists, saying that they don't know anything and calling them monkeys, and saying that they have no faith and they'll lead you out of the truth. Of course, in the publications, even though they admitted that it's not the fault of the person, all that, and that you need to go get professional help. That's what they said in the article on jw.org right now, because they realize after some people shot up a few kingdom halls, you better start letting your people get fucking mental health help from professionals that know what they're talking about. You know why? Because it started affecting them. Once it affects them, then they change their tune. So that to me was pretty amazing. They realized that, it's probably in our best interest to encourage people now to go get help, professional help. They finally recognized it, that they're not up to par. They're not able to give people that help. And sometimes just trusting in Jehovah isn't enough. Because of what they say, the very same imperfection and sin and all, all this stuff. They should have known that decades ago. And had they done that, maybe the organization would be a different place. Maybe they wouldn't have a lot of the problems that they do now. Maybe they wouldn't have ex-members coming to the Kingdom Hall shooting them up. You gotta, these organizations, these leaders, they just don't get it. They just don't get it. And they've got so much pride, even when they do finally get it and they make some changes, they never make any reference to that. They never apologize. Of course, we know that. They're not going to apologize. Okay? That's never going to happen. Never going to happen. They'll just kind of subtly make the changes. Then all of a sudden, I guess that's new light, guys. Isn't that new light? Mental health's not your fault anymore. New light. Thanks, Jehovah. Yeah. It's really messed up. You know what else is messed up? When I make these videos, just like the last one I made, where you're talking about the conversation online that I had with that lady who was, all worked up about her ancestors and all that stuff. And then this guy came on, and I pinned it if you want to go look at the comment and say something to him as well. This guy made a comment. There's always got to be one, right? There's always one asshole. And he said that, oh, your delivery is just horrible. I only lasted a few minutes. Yeah, I bet you did last a few minutes. Your wife had already told me that. So it's like, people, you know what? If you don't have anything to say about the video, if you don't have anything to contribute, just keep scrolling. Keep scrolling. Okay? I'll end up blocking it from the channel anyway. And speaking about division, I'm just crazy stuff. I'm just trying to have fun. I'm just trying to find different ways to make a buck, just like everybody else. And I found a really good way through shorts. And that really happened. I've got to give the credit to my wife, because she was the one that she sent me this short. It was with the Randy Travis song. And I've never had shorts with that many views. And then I uploaded that one, which was kind of like a re-upload from TikTok. And I mean, immediately it shot to like 2,000 views. And I was like, oh, damn. And it's a lot easier. And so I started uploading shorts of different artists, different singers and songs, and putting a picture of them and then a snippet of the song. And, I've got ones that are up to 5,000. And so I did these other shorts of like the summoning a generation with a song. I did the Gen X, so I did the one with Peter Gabriel's Sledgehammer. Love that song. Love Peter Gabriel. Love Peter Gabriel. Love his music. And of course, there had to be one asshole, and always from our generation, from Gen X, who think they're all that. That's one more way people are fucking divided now. It's like, what the fuck, people? Come on. That's because the Gen X and millennials and Z and Gen Y and all that. And the guy in there saying that you're not old enough for this song. When were you born? Were you even born in the 80s and all this stuff? It's like, can't you just why do people have to be asses? Can't you just scroll on, or at least enjoy it, or keep your mouth shut? I mean, come on, people. And guess what? Coming from one of them as well, guys. Come on. All of you fucking Gen Xers out there, get your heads out of your ass. You're not all that. We're not all that. Okay? So stop whining and bitching about how we had to play outside all night until the street lights came on and all this stuff, and they never took us to the doctor until we were bleeding. Get fucking over it, or get a therapist. Jeez. It's just so stupid. All this stupid division and all that fucking bullshit started during the lockdown. That's the kind of fucking bullshit that started during the lockdown. Oh, let's start dividing ourselves now because we're Gen this or Gen that. And then for a while, the millennials were the one that got shit all over. Millennials were this, millennials were that. And now it's the Gen Ys or Z or whatever it is. You know, it's just fucking stop, people. Stop. Those are your fucking kids. So if they came out that way, why? Because you're a fucking failure as a parent. That's why. They're your fucking kids. And if Gen Xers supposedly we all grew up to be such good people and responsible and everything, it's because we had good parents. Okay? So don't shit on the baby boomers either. You know, they did the best they could. You know, then their parents were from the silent generation and the greatest generation and all that stuff, you know. Just division, guys. I'm just sick of it. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of COVID and the pandemic being a fucking excuse for everything and people's fucking mediocrity. Okay? All right, so you had to stay home for a year or so. Get the fuck over it. I had a blast during that time. I loved it. In fact, you know what? I wish it would happen again. I had a blast sitting at home, watching videos, giving classes online, and I got paid for through the whole thing and didn't have to be around people. I fucking loved it. So anyway, you know, not everybody has the same view of that time period. Now, I, for one, I didn't mind it at all, okay? Because I really don't like being around people. So for me, it was absolutely fine. So anyway, yeah, mental health. It's a thing now. Welcome to Reality Watchtower, Jehovah's Witnesses. Be blessed. See you in the next one.